So I was a serving police officer in nine. I joined the Metropolitan Police in '82 as a police cadet, '84 as a normal officer. I went to Greenwich, worked in uniform for a very short period of time, got seconded into plain clothes, got selected to work on a covert operation, which effectively resulted in me infiltrating Millwall football hooligans as an undercover police officer. So pretending to be something that I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I did that for 2.5 years. And during that process, immersed myself into that world and tried to become a convincing football hooligan, whatever that is. And was quite successful at it, in as much as I didn't get sussed out, and got into the inner workings of that world at that time, and worked in that environment for essentially properly for about 18 months. It took us a while to get in, once we were in, and then obviously that escalated, and as we worked, we got more and more accepted. As we got more and more accepted, we got more and more involved in that life. So it was a job for me. It was a job, and the way I try best to explain it is, it's like playing a character in a play or a film. Is you get given that you need a great script, and a great director, but sadly, with the thing that we did, is we had no script, we had no director. It was just us. So it was a two-year improvisation, effectively trying to get the information that we did. So and I was convincing, and I was good at it. And I managed to, not in an arrogant way, but I managed to convince people by the way that I behaved and what I did, that was the world that I was in, and they didn't question it. Yeah. But I would say that was, I just took the positives from that rather than looking at what the negatives are. My argument at that time was that I'd managed to convince a large amount of people that were looking for what I was what I actually was, and not realizing that I was that. They were very on point in relation to looking for undercover police officers and covert, and I didn't get sussed. And so I thought, well, I'm pretty good at convincing people I'm something I'm not. No, for me, it was just a job, mate.
Yeah.
And I didn't advertise the fact that ID was about me. I didn't advertise the fact that I didn't. It was just, it was a period of my life that I was quite adamant that it wasn't going to define me. It was just a job that I did for 2.5 years that I tried to do to the best of my ability. It concluded, I had a realization at that point that I didn't want to be in a position where I was going to be told what I could and couldn't do by anybody anymore. I was 23. I'd put my life on the line in order to provide the evidence that they required in order to arrest a load of nasty people and put them in prison. They elected not to go with that. That's their choice. And after that 2.5 years of work there, my reward was to go back to Orpington and drive a police car in uniform. And it was like, okay, that's great. Thanks ever so much for that offer, but you can f off. I'm going to go and do something else, because I don't want to be, and I've never worked for anyone since, because I didn't want to be in that position where people were going to be, we all to a certain extent are, have to make decisions that we make in order to, so we are dictated by other people and situations and circumstances. But the bigger picture for me is that I wanted to be in charge of my own destiny, and I wanted to be able to make those decisions. It's just a release for them, is a way of release is football. Are all football hooligans wife beaters, domestic abusers? Are they? No. But it does attract. There is an, you don't go to. It's just my opinion. football hooligans don't just go to football on Saturday and have a row, and then on Sunday sit down with everyone in a pub and have a Sunday roast, and it's all lovely. And they do, but if it kicks off, if something becomes inflammatory, if something happens, that they're the first in the front of the queue, and they will be not starting the thing, but they won't be backing down. You know, it's a male thing. You know, football hooliganism is one of the only areas where you can specifically go, that is purely a male thing, because it is. 99% of football hooligans. I'm not saying that women can't be football hooligans, but it's a culture, it's an identity, it's all of those things that sadly, or not sadly, but that people are now lacking, which is a good reason as to why maybe it's beginning to rear its head again, is because people are younger, certainly younger adults and younger men are looking for a reason for identity, and to be able to have a place where they can release, and they can have banter, and they can have camaraderie, and they can have all of that stuff that society is not giving. And it's not surprising that the culture and football hooliganism is on the rise. People that watch rugby and go to rugby and play rugby inadvertently are more middle class. Yeah. And that's and you can argue about that all you like. It's not a working class sport, but football is still the working class game of choice. So there is a culture thing and there is a class thing that you can't remove. And way more people watch it. It's a much bigger sport globally than rugby is. Football is it's a thing that's handed down generationally, and football hooliganism tapered away because it didn't go away. It was just called something else. It started to be called antisocial behaviour, and CCTV has had a much bigger impact. Not the ability of police to police football. It's due to the fact of technology that they've now got that helps them. Football hooliganism won't go on in the stadiums. It will go on Saturday night, and it will kick off on a Saturday night. And their argument will be it was drunk fueled, and because it's antisocial and people were pissed. Whereas actually, it's probably football related, but they're not going to advertise that fact. Yeah. And you're now dealing with a, with a police force that are complete police in a completely different way to how they used to, and they won't be able. Not only will they not be able, but they won't be willing to do what they potentially would need to do in order to combat it, because everyone's petrified about saying the wrong thing. Everyone's petrified about being filmed. Everyone's petrified about stepping in and making a start and taking a stand. I'm talking about policing now. So what's the solution? Is it will allow itself to happen? Nobody has any respect for them as a force or as a service, and a lot of that's justified. Yeah, there is a justification around that. It doesn't mean it's right, but there is a justification. Respect is earned. Is football hooliganism on the rise? Yes, but has it ever gone away? No. Has it been called other things? Yes. Does it suit the media to not call it football hooliganism and call it something else? It did for a time, and now it will be, well, it's happening in non-league, and it's yes, it has its place, and yes, there is an issue, but it's a much wider issue than football hooliganism at the moment. It's a much wider issue than football hooliganism. It's about identity. It's about, for me, young men having an identity and an outlet in relation to what they do, and it's just brewing to not be good. It's not a great mix. people being pissed off and angry is on the rise, period. If we don't have riots this year, I'll eat my hat.